welcome back to the mess that I've created. It's been a couple weeks since I've done a video, but I thought now would be a good time to kind of go through what I've been doing and the progress I've been making, mostly evenings. Well, I guess pretty much all evenings after work. I've just been coming out here and kind of plugging away. So I've got the first kind of layer done of the OSB all along the sides here. The only thing I haven't done is anything by the doors. And I'm a complete noob when it comes to this stuff. I've just been kind of winging it, doing what I think makes sense, making mistakes along the way. And it's not perfect, but ultimately I'm doing it myself, saving a few bucks. And I thought maybe I'd cover some of the tips that I've come up with on my own to help me get through this. So I guess the first thing to talk about is marking the studs. So I went around and you can kind of see it here. Those little X's with the lines, that's where a stud is. So obviously they're supposed to be 16 on center, and I think most of them are, but there were some irregularities. Some of the studs weren't the greatest shape. Some of them were maybe curved a little bit or whatever. So I thought it made more sense for me to kind of mark them to make my life a little easier finding them. And I did the same at the very top. You can kind of see it. So I marked that top and bottom first. Went around, bought one of those markers that can mark on anything, including things with dust or whatever. So that was step one. Step two was a recommendation from my wife, which I thought made sense. And I think, you know, what you're supposed to do is stagger these things so that the joints and stuff, you don't come with like this four-way kind of cross pattern. But I think either way, because it's just a garage and because what makes sense to me might not make sense to other people, and these aren't structural by any means, was to lay one of the 4x8s on its side and then stack the 4x8s lengthwise. That gets me the 12 feet that I need for the span of the studs. Now, I didn't take the panels all the way down to the concrete, obviously. So in order to get that level and not have to kind of push it up against the wall, I wound up taking two 2x4s and screwing them together. This guy here. So what I've been doing is I've been taking this guy and just putting it on the concrete, laying it on the concrete. Let's see if I can do that. One hand, like so. And then I'll take the panel and rest it on top. That gets me even spacing, and I'm using the same piece all the way around. And what that gets me is these panels are all the exact same height. There's no unevenness from one panel to the other. They all came out the same height. Now, one thing I discovered was I'm fairly certain this wall here is not level, because it butts up against that wall's not quite level either, but it gets better as you go. So this wall here, because it's not this one here where the studs are, wasn't quite level. All of my boards are perfectly level when you put the level on them and you kind of follow it all the way down. You can kind of see it levels like this. But as I stacked them on top, because it wasn't level with the side, I started getting these little gaps here, which for me, not a big deal. And from a distance, you can't even tell that it's there. And a lot of them don't have that. The other thing that by doing what I did, I created a very, very tiny gap at the top there, which you can't even see from this angle, but there is a little bit of a gap at the top, which, you know, I'm not heartbroken about. Big deal. So I did the whole first bottom row, and then I did some of these top panels before I realized that some people space them, right? So these are butted up right up against each other. There's obviously no space between these two or these two or any of the ones on the side. There's no space, not intentionally at least. There's some gaps because maybe some of the wood's a little uneven or whatever. But so what some people say is you're supposed to leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch because this wood will expand as it, you know, gets introduced to moisture. However, just with everything else, there's varying opinions on that. So because it's interior of a garage, there's been a lot of people that will say that you'll find on the internet, because on the internet everything's true, that they've done this, they've butted up right against each other, and they've had no problems at all. And they've done it for years, and they've had no problem. So a couple thoughts here. Should I be doing that? I probably should, right? I think just to be safe, to relieve myself of a future headache of maybe these warping a little bit or creating some sort of ripples, probably wise to space them. At this point, I'm a little too far in to do that. I'm not going to undo these and do that. So if I come into the point where some of these do get wavy because maybe the humidity in the summer or something causes the issue, they are screwed up. So there's one benefit there. I can always unscrew them, put new ones on. Do I want to do that? No. So I'll probably live with the fact that they're rippled for a while before the eyesore drives me insane. But that's one benefit of using the screws versus nails. The other thought here is that some people will claim, including the manufacturers, that as long as you have the panels in the environment that they will be in, and acclimated to the environment before you install them, you should be okay. So that goes to me potentially being all right here doing it the way I'm doing it. And then the other point that they will bring up is this blue on here is not just for looks. This blue is actually some sort of barrier or some sort of glue or something that prevents moisture from getting in, because I guess the moisture doesn't really penetrate from the outside, it penetrates from the sides. So because I'm using full panels in the vast majority of this, I think I'm okay, because the blue is retained on all four sides of the panels. The only place that this blue is not going to exist is where I've cut pieces, like around the window, for example, or in the corners where maybe I needed to cut the pieces. So most of them, I think, will be okay from that perspective. They say like the water gets introduced on the sides. The other thing is other people saying that the moisture you get from humidity is not enough moisture to create that kind of warping. It's like full-on water exposure, like rain or something like that. And because this is inside, and it's not climate controlled, but I will put up an air conditioner over there. Maybe that'll help. I would imagine there's going to be some movement here. It's wood at the end of the day, but enough to cause a big problem? Hopefully not. But I just thought I'd bring that up. That, like, I learned about that after the fact, after I had already made quite a bit of the panels or put them up, and I'm too far in now for me to change. So I'm not going to be spacing them for the rest of it. I'm just going to gamble, roll the dice, and see what happens. But if it does happen, maybe I'll report back. But I just wanted to throw that out there before anything else. The outlets, cutting the outlets, what I'm using is one of those oscillating tools. This is probably something where I think in one of my other videos I talked about not being good at woodwork. I mean, that's about as evidence as you need. So some of them came out better than others. Some of them came out worse than others. Just not that good with a tape measure. What can I say? The outlet for the lights came out pretty good. So that's the story of the bottom. The tops, I figured I'd just rest them right on top, and they've been going up pretty easily. Oh, let me talk a little bit about spacing here of the screws. So obviously when you're screwing into the OSB, this particular OSB, I've got two different kinds. For whatever reason, I bought it all at the same time, all the same, supposed to all be the same, but you can kind of see even from this distance, there's like some that's one color yellow and then one that's more of like a different color. So the ones that are lighter colored were stacked farther down, and I think that's all I've got left at this point. Those ones on the other side have the grids that you can follow for screwing in. The yellow ones don't. They have like these tiny little crosses on them. But either way, it was more of a, maybe I've got one over here. The pattern on it, see, like here, you can kind of see the little lines for marking, but the pattern's are much smaller pieces than the other side, which is it almost looks like it's a completely different kind of OSB. So it's like, so I wanted this side, because I thought that would be nicer, to be facing inside. So to ultimately, for me to be able to screw and find the studs once they're up, I can see from the top, which is fine. I mean, right below it, not a big deal. And then down the bottom, again, I mark them, so not a big deal. But in between, you know, you kind of need to eyeball it. And what I found to be a more reliable way of doing that was I just took a 2x4 and I marked my 2x4 every 12 inches. You could probably do less than that, but I bought screws because I figure if I screw them on, then I can screw them off if I ever need to get behind them because if I nailed, that's just going to become a mess trying to get them off. So this is 12 inches for every screw. So what I did was I wound up lining this up to the stud, which lines it up to the bottom as well, obviously because it's straight. And then that gets me a line for where I screw in every 12 inches. And I just followed that all the way around. So that's how I did that one. Now the top's a different story, right? It's a lot longer of a area for me to kind of come in and kind of eyeball. Obviously that's much different. So kind of thinking about what could I use there. And then let's go back over here and I'll show you what I used. I've got a 7-foot chain with a hook on the end that I've just been clipping onto the strapping and then dangling right where the stud is. And because it's heavy and it's only an 8-foot wall panel on the chain itself, I just marked with that marker where to screw, and then you can kind of see I've got a screw right there. And that's what I've been following. So every foot on my chain, I got a mark, and then I clip it there, and I follow that all the way down. That gets me right on the stud for screwing in every 12 inches. So that's been going pretty quick. It's been pretty good. So that's another tip that I can say. So that gets me completely square all the way across, and it's coming out decent. I'm happy with it. I mean, it's not perfect, but for me, for somebody who's never done anything like this before, and to just kind of dive in without any experience, that's what I've done. So yeah, once I get this back wall, I think I got about a day left really. So if I can start early one morning and then do the rest of the up top part here, and then I would imagine the last part here is just going to be a lot of cutting, but not too bad. So that's the plan. Once that's done, then the fun starts. I can start to lay out my garage the way I want it, get the lift where I want it, get the workbenches where I want it, my toolboxes, start bringing in all the stuff that I have, and then I'll have walls that I can easily mount stuff to without having to anchor like drywall or, you know, and I've got all the, it'll be easier to find the studs on here as well because I can just follow the screws down. Or again, I've got it marked at the top. I can kind of just do the same trick with the chain if I want to hang something off a stud. So that's it. That's the update for today. Slow going. I mean, obviously I have a day job. So I come out here in the evenings and I do a few panels, and then, you know, I get dirty and then I go in and then I do it again the next day. I got a long weekend coming, so maybe I can knock out the rest of the wall panels, and then all the walls will be done. And then I got to hang some garage lights and just chip away. Car stuff is coming. So I got new tires for the Viper. The tires that are on there are 11 years old. So even though they got quite a bit of tread and they look good to the eye, I think they're getting pretty hard. And what I don't want to do is just risk having a spill or a spin because my tires are so old. So I got some new tires. I'm going to get those mounted. Before I do that, it needs to be washed. It hasn't been washed in a while. It's covered in dust in the other garage. So I bought a little handheld battery powered sprayer. So it's kind of like a power washer, but you just hook your hose right into the back of it. My power washer broke. I got to get a new one. So this is just a temporary. I found it at a Lowe's Depot for cheap. It was on dirt sales, like a giant return of like a bunch of them. So I bought that. Maybe I'll just do a video of me washing the Viper, getting the new tires on, taking it out for the first time this year. So that's coming. And then once I get the lift over here, the plan is to get the Caprice on the lift first, because that one runs and drives It's not as nice as the Viper. So it'll be a good maiden voyage up onto the lift. And I think I could probably do an oil change or something on that, just worthwhile. And then I got to start diving into the Fiero, get that up and running. But I mean, I can't wait to get in here and do car stuff and not just like the stuff that I don't really enjoy, which is insulation and OSB. But anyways, if you guys watched, thank you for watching. Obviously, this is not too exciting. Just a quick update, just to try to keep things going a little bit and then almost document the stuff that I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But that's it. Thanks.